Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam McCrudden Jr., aka Zorval-chan Less Than Guru, and for this episode, I would like to talk about kind of an update to some of my games that I've been doing. I haven't done an update in a long time because I've been busy. I am the line developer for Torg Eternity, and that, as well as that, is my second job. That loud noise you heard was Mars the video cat being annoying because I'm talking into a microphone, and that is his cue to come and bother me. And you'll see right there is Muse, the elusive Muse. She doesn't like people. She only likes Mars. So she is not one to come jump in my lap, but she likes to look and stare at me and judge me. So that's what she's doing, and being upset that Mars is with me and not with her. So let's get back to the update. I am currently doing Earthdawn and Palladium are my main games. Was doing Lancers. Very interesting and strange game. I never really got a point where I decided if I liked the system or not, because it's one that I couldn't find a physical copy for, and I'm a person who, when I read rules, I like the physical copy. The PDF I do have, but PDFs I find very difficult to read. I love PDFs for finding stuff, for searches. Control F is my friend, and I will Control F and read short things, but if I just go to read a long chunk of stuff, I much prefer physical form. So a lot of the games that we were playing was me trying to figure out how the system worked. So I didn't get a full thing. And then the Game Master got busy, which I understand very much. You can look at my content on this channel and see that a lot of it is very sporadic, where I do a bunch and then I don't do anything. The Palladium Tips and Tricks playlist was me just sitting down and recording a bunch of them in a row and then posting them and setting the schedule up so I could put it all on. I could do it in a couple of hours, put it all on, and then wait weeks and know that I had content coming out on a schedule. And then when I got to the end, I didn't have enough time until now to do anything more. So having said that, let's talk about some of the updates. I'm very happy with our Earthdawn. Earthdawn is a game system which we started playing probably 2 years ago. I started playing as a player. I have a various editions review on this channel. It's a game that I was intrigued with back in the 90s when it came out. I read a little bit but didn't play. In the early 2000s, maybe it was even late 90s, I played in a short first edition game, and that's when I kind of started really enjoying Earthdawn, or at least it gave a good first impression. And then there were a lot of us who moved, went different places and stuff, and then a couple of my friends moved back nearby to a town that was only, or city that was only 30 minutes away, and then I got into their game as at the start of a Earthdawn second edition campaign. And that, I really liked Earthdawn, and it was right after 4th edition came out, but the Game Master didn't know it, and then I bought 4th edition and read it and liked it better, but we had been far enough into it that the Game Master didn't really want to he didn't necessarily want to change the system. So we kept with 2nd edition, and then that one had to end. And then a couple of years ago, I was getting into being into Torg Eternity big time, and I was doing Palladium, and different things were happening, and I just couldn't continue with having multiple Torg games going on at the same time. So I asked to step away from game mastering, and then everybody voted. We voted to do Earthdawn 4th edition, and I really fell in love with Earthdawn 4th edition. So we've been doing that quite a lot. There's been times where, similar to how I do my Palladium, where you have different characters. When certain people can't show up, you do a smaller group. the game master in that one did something where we have like two groups. One is if not enough people show up, or it's also become if there's weather inclement or people are sick and we want to do it online, then we can do a secondary group with that. So we basically have two groups happening in the same world, but depending on the real life situation is what group we're doing. So that whole campaign of the two various groups, we've been doing for probably over 40 something sessions, almost 50 sessions probably at this point. Which has been really fun. I'm really enjoying these long-term campaigns that are going on. I'm really enjoying my Palladium game, which is over 60 currently, and you can see most of them here on the channel. I got a few more that I need to add to get caught up, but the Earthdawn has been going really well. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in this was a death that happened recently to my character that actually was really cool and really I enjoyed. I did not want the character to die. I did not plan on the character dying, but it was something that happened that was very organic, I thought. It made me think as a player and as a character, and then to kind of mesh the two to make the ultimate decision that I'll get into. So in Earthdawn, in most of our games, when we start a new system, when I game master and the other game masters will play a couple of sessions, or we'll play a first plot or hook, and then we'll ask people, are you happy with the game? Do you want to continue? And if the answer is yes, then we say, are you happy with the character? And do you want to continue with that character? And in the games where we don't have the same XP, and I have videos here on the pros and cons of keeping the party with the same XP or different XP, and why it, in my opinion, in certain games it's good, and in certain games, or each one has their moment and their time and place. I don't take the aspect of every game should be exactly the same. So you can look on this channel for that. But in Earthdawn, we have if you come up with a new character, you only get a certain amount of the XP, not all the XP. If you miss a game, you only get a certain amount of XP. You don't get all the XP that everybody who actually showed up for the game is. So that's how that game is working. So before we get into that, if we're starting off and we don't quite click with a character, then the Game Master allows us a certain amount of time to change up characters. For example, there was a time where I was playing a character, and based off of the group dynamic, I thought that being the same discipline in Earthdawn, but being a different race, being a human, would fill in roles that I thought were missing. And then when I actually had a session where I played the human, I really regretted it. So the Game Master allowed me to switch and then switch back. And then he allowed another character who didn't like the concept at all to completely switch. So there are certain things like that happen. And when you're getting into a game, I strongly recommend Game Masters allowing some fluidity of character concepts, not making a player forced to do something that they thought was a good idea, and then once they get into play, it's not so great. Let them change at the beginning, and then at a point you can say, okay, here on out we're going with these characters. So to go to the character death in Earthdawn, in our secondary group, I was playing an Obsidian Sky Raider, because one of the things I kind of enjoy is taking things that don't necessarily seem to go together, or especially in Earthdawn 4th edition, they allow any of the races to be any of the disciplines, which in previous editions disciplines were restricted in some ways, or your race was restricted in what disciplines you could go into. So I like taking those things that weren't allowed before and seeing if they work or not. And one of the things that wasn't was Obsidian, which are big rock people, being Sky Raiders. And I just thought the idea of this Obsidian, which are usually they're earth, they're rock, they move slow, they're very powerful, they're very tough, but they're usually calm, and having them be like a Viking berserker type thing. And I thought that would be a kind of a fun concept to play as a Hulk-like character, where in the MCU, where Bruce Banner, they're like, oh, do you need to get angry? And he's like, I'm always angry. He just is calm on the surface, but inside he's always angry. And I thought that would be a fun thing to portray. And I really enjoyed the character. Got him up to Circle 3. Then we get to a point in the game where we're going into what we think is a dungeon-ish in Earthdawn. And it's not. It's actually a cave that leads to a life rock. And the life rock, Earthdawn, Obsidian are not born of parents. They are birthed from these life rocks. And they're connected with other Obsidian from that same life rock. And they found a life rock that had been damaged and was kind of at the point suspended. And my character, in his rage, saw a spike sticking out of it and ripped out the spike, and it reanimated the life rock. But now the life rock has like this gaping wound. You could say like a puncture wound. Like if you stab somebody, that arrow or that knife sticking in them is hurting them, it's wounded them. But if you remove it, then the blood starts flowing. So that's kind of what had happened. And then my character had to make the decision, do I merge with this life rock and die and give up my life energy to save a life rock, or do I let the life rock die and my character live? So I really enjoyed the character, liked the character, didn't expect this encounter to happen. It wasn't like I planned with the game master, hey, I don't really like my character, can we come up with a cool way to get rid of that character and introduce a new character? That was not in any way, shape, or form part of any decision. The thing that happened was we get there, this happens, my rage sets this thing off. I guess I could have left the spike in and then went and got people and came back. That would have been the calm thing to do, but in character I did that. And then in character and out of character, I had to determine, is my character going to sacrifice themselves for future generations of Obsidian? And it took me a while. It wasn't like a boom, I'm doing it, or boom, I'm not doing it. It was a, wow, this is going to affect me. But I made the ultimate decision of sacrificing the character. I felt that he would feel guilty about having prevented future generations of Obsidian. And he also knew that if he expressed this to the party, they would try to talk him out of it, that they would try to go get help and come back. But my character and I, as a player, thought that it was probably, there was a likely chance that the life rock would die before we could get help, because we were in a remote location in the Earthdawn world. It would take time to find people that possibly could help and bring them back, whereas if I did this, I probably had a better chance of doing the life rock. So to take a long story and make it short, I sacrificed myself. I made a couple of comments to people, and then I merged before they could stop me. And then the game master had me basically then told me, hey, you are going to be Obsidian. You can choose basically create a character and then have it at that same character's experience coming out, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting that I would come in with the base level of experience, because like I said, in Earthdawn, there's like a base level for new characters that increases as everybody else increases, but it's not full experience. But I guess he took that I made this sacrifice and not just wanting to get rid of the character, but in the story-wise to do that. And so I made a Obsidian Swordmaster, because that's another thing that I think is kind of interesting. This big, hulking, rock-like person who's a swashbuckler type is what I would consider a Swordmaster. They're more flamboyant or put on a show as they do Swordmasters, whereas most Obsidian just want to beat the thing. Not because they're rageful, but they just want to be efficient and effective, so they go the warrior route of the just do what I have to eliminate it. And I thought it'd be completely different than this rageful Sky Raider Obsidian, and instead be like a smart aleck, quipping, very energetic and delight and laughing Obsidian. So like a personality shift, and being something that's not necessarily known for Obsidian, the Tiskrang flamboyant lizard-like people are what is kind of the typical swordsmaster. So that's where we're going with that. I thought that was cool. The other thing, and I have various videos on downtime can be fun, is I really enjoy Earthdawn downtime, planning out what you're going to do. And in the main group, my character is still the Windling Weaponsmith, and we came across some cares and determined that we probably, or my character and another character just wanted to, like, hey, this is probably above our I don't want to say level, because that's above our circle, which is an in-game, out-of-game thing in Earthdawn, but it's above our level of experience and above our capabilities to be successful. So this was something that she felt was probably we would not succeed. And then as we went on, and my character, who is atypical Windling personality, started off as a typical flighty Windling fairy flying around and doing things on the spur of the moment, and then certain things happened, and the character became more stern and grim, I guess you could say, and has taken that aspect of it very thoughtful, being a weaponsmith and planning out stuff, and then based off of the evidence came up with this is above us. And I would feel bad because everybody's weapons and armor is not at their peak effectiveness. Said we need to return to town, and I need to do everything that I can to improve us as a group before I feel comfortable coming back. So we did that, and something that I thought would take a couple of weeks ended up taking a full month in game of advancing a couple of my talents and getting this mystical thread item of a forge working somewhat as intended. And that took a little bit longer than I thought, and it ended up being a month. But at the end of the month, I got everybody's weapon and everybody's armor as advanced as I could as a weaponsmith. So now I feel like I've done everything I can to get prepared. And then other people did. A couple of people had enough experience in that they were able to increase their circle and get better. And other people spent legend points, the experience in Earthdawn, to increase their characters, so to set us up to have a better chance of success when we go into these cares. So I'm looking forward to the next game. It actually took a full session. We all went into it thinking half the session will be advancing and half the session will be a short game, but it ended up being the entire session was this month-long process. But we were able to get some role-playing and stuff into it, as with my character working with this forge. Probably talked about it in my updates before. I and our party had found a forge that was broken, and the dwarven weaponsmith, ghost of the one who had created the forge and then broke the forge, and the forge was magical, and it worked very much like a spell matrix that had cracked. So working on the forge was like working with raw magic. And if you know about Earthdawn, then you know casting spells with raw magic is very bad. So when I was doing forging on the forge, it was working like I was working with raw magic, as if I was casting a spell or something similar. Not good. So one of the things I had to do was I had to determine how to work this forge without having it be raw magic, making basically a weaponsmith version of a matrix, a protected matrix. To cast a spell, I needed to do something to protect the forge so that I could use it, because it basically sped up time. It allowed me to do things faster. The problem was I thought that if I just did item history and did some research and figured out some stuff with the forge and connected a thread to it, that then I would be safe. What I realized is I have to connect the thread, and I'd have to get it to rank 2, and then the rank 3 was a deed that I had to repair the forge, and then connect a thread at rank 3 to safely work the forge. So I actually had to then even further work on the forge unprotected until I could create the repair to it. And it was a fun thing. It was something that I wasn't expecting, but it took a little bit longer time. But in character, it really developed the character even further, and it's something that I'm really enjoying. And I was able to take a previous mentor, which is something that I like about Earthdawn Downtime, is you can find mentors, and you can, if it's not just I'm learning this one circle here, but if you keep coming back to a person that will train you and get you to the next circle and learn things from and have role playing with, it can be really fun. And a mentor that I had learned under a couple of times had a nephew that was under my circle, and his thing was hey, I'm teaching you, and I could teach my nephew also, and I have taught my nephew, but I would like my nephew to have a greater range of understanding about weaponsmith, and you are a very strange windling weaponsmith, which I've never seen before, so getting that type of knowledge would be beneficial to my nephew. So I took his nephew on and trained him a couple of times, and then I introduced the nephew to the forge, because we keep leaving Haven, but we keep getting drawn back in, but we're not always there. We don't want to be a Parlanth group, but we're becoming a Parlanth group, and it's very ironic, and it's very fun, because as a player, I would love to explore Parlanth, but as a character, even though Parlanth is the open, cool thing where adventurers go, my character, being the mentality that he is, realizes that people who go in Parlanth don't come out a lot of the time. And I want to continue living. So that's kind of a very fun dynamic between in-character knowledge, out-of-character knowledge, in-character wants and desires, and out-of-character wants and desires, in conflict and turning it into a story. We leave every once in a while. The last time we left, we didn't come back for 4 months. And to get to that forge, to a rune tower that forge is in, I can get to it myself, but everybody else in my group needs to get to it through a wizard spell, and we don't have any wizards in our party, so there is a wizard in Haven who wants to study that place, but doesn't want to be there alone, so we hook up with the wizard, and we're like, hey, let's go study the place, and then I can work on the forge, you can do your study about the ruins. And that wizard was like, you were gone for 4 months, and I couldn't do anything there because we want to keep this place a secret. So my character thought, hey, I'll get the nephew involved. Yeah, I could get the mentor involved, but he's even better than me, and I want to be like, that's my thing. But it's like hey, I need you to go to this place when the wizard wants to go to it. What's in it for the weaponsmith? Hey, here's some cool stuff that this forge can do. And I've learned a bunch of the bad things, so I can tell you how to prevent that. So that's something that I was able to do, is get this new dwarf weaponsmith, or this lower circle dwarf weaponsmith, engaged in it and link my story in a way that was organic and made sense to the party. So that was fun that we were able to do in a downtime session. So the purpose, out of character purpose of the session, was to get everybody advanced as far as we could, so then we could go to these cares and have a possibility of success instead of a greater possibility of failure and death. And then in the role-playing aspect, the in-character aspect of continuing to forge ties with the wizard that we had used to get to the forge, as well as the weaponsmith, who then could take that wizard to the forge or protect that wizard, or they could do their things and not be alone at the forge while we're gone. So that was just something that was really cool, and I really enjoyed a lot about Earthdawn, is you can take the mechanics and the lore and intermingle them. It's one of the reasons why I love Torg Eternity, is the mechanics and the lore mesh really well. For Torg Eternity stuff, look at the Ulysses International channel at the Torg Eternity Delphi Council debriefings for thoughts and stuff on Torg Eternity. And then Palladium, we've been advancing various plot lines. So in that, I changed a while ago the setting to be the campaign instead of a specific character group being the campaign, and we have various little plots going on simultaneously. And usually I send out a text message saying "Palladium tonight, who's coming?" and then I see who's coming, and then we usually determine what the thread is, the plot hook or the continuing plot hook, and we're going through that. So that is a fun way that I found to do stuff. And sometimes it's a one session, sometimes I think it's going to be a one session, it becomes a 2 or 3 session, which is our current one that we're doing, that I want to get up on this channel is a thing that I thought would be one session, and then it didn't happen in one session, and then what the remaining part that was left I thought would be a half a session, so I added a bit more to it. And then after the second session, we didn't get to the bit more part, but I had already added it and they had kind of started it. So it's actually a 1 session became a 3 session, which sometimes happens. That again, it grows organically on the what are we doing, how much time do we have, and stuff. So that's been very fun. On Wednesday streams, we're going through unhallowed data, and it never ceases to amaze me how much stuff I can temporarily forget that I've game mastered before, and then I play it, and big parts I just forget happened until they happen, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Or parts that I remember, but I don't remember the mechanics of it, which is really fun, especially when it's like, hey, there's these 2 things, they are linked, and I do not remember how they're linked. Or there's these 2 things that are linked, and you have to beat A before you beat B, and I can't remember which one's A and which one's B, and that's really fun as a player. And while I go into it solidly with the I'm not letting out of character knowledge affect my in-character decisions, it's fun when that out of character knowledge is so fuzzy and hazy because I did it years ago that I don't even have to worry about it. I don't have to consciously determine I can't do this because it's out of character knowledge. It's I can do whatever I want because I don't even remember what's going on. I don't remember how to defeat this thing. So these things that I'm trying, if they happen to succeed, it's not because I'm using knowledge. It's because I am coming up just like a normal player would come up with things. So that is fun. So having said that, that kind of is my updates on the games that I've been doing, where they're going. I thought the death thing in Earthdawn was very poignant. It was very emotional. It got the other party members because they liked my character. You know, we had an in-game kind of mourning type thing, a farewell, a brief, but probably more than my character said a lot, was like, you take my sword, here you hold my axe, dropped my gear, merged into the stone saying remember my legend, which is a big Earthdawn catchphrase, or the build your legend, or it's all about your people remembering you, your story, etc. Because my character didn't know who or what was going to come out, so it was like, here's what I have. If the thing that comes out, the being that the obsidian who comes out can use this, but not allowing the players to try to persuade me or stop me from doing it. And then once I was merging and it was too late and the party realized what was happening, now they're losing a person who became their friend, who fought with them, was an ally, was a friend, and then a new person coming out, and then how that affects the party, because now this new person, we don't know who you are. Our friend didn't know who you are, but you are here only because of the sacrifice of our friends. And that's very cool, very rich storytelling that wasn't predetermined in any way, shape, or form. And that's the kind of stuff that I like. So if any of those ideas or how that was expressed is something that you can think about, and not necessarily you can, if you want to take it whole cloth, do it. If you want to break it apart, you can. But that's an experience that was really cool after 40 years of role playing. Still was a moment that was cool, and it was a character death that, again, I didn't want, I didn't plan, but I am perfectly happy happened. Of character deaths where it was a game master just not liking my character or thinking my character was too advanced and killing me off, or being randomly killed off by a game master who was like, oh, somebody's going to die, and rolls a dice and I'm the number that popped up. Not even a I'm going to roll dice randomly to see the hit. It was I'm going to roll dice randomly to see who dies. Those are very frustrating deaths. Those are the deaths that I still remember because they sucked so bad. This is a death that I can remember for the story and the emotion of it happening, sadness to lose a character, but in a really cool story way. So, having said that, once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zoral John, Less Than Guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.